Let me see how the prince will choose you, poor thing.
Amaka was the jewel of Umaru, not just because of her beauty, though even the elders whispered that the gods had taken their time with her, but also because of her spirit. She helped a blind woman cross the market road, carry palm oil for a widow with shaking hands, and calm children when they fought. She did not speak much, but her smile made the whole village pause. Amaka's mother had died when she was just 7 years old. Her father, a quiet man of few words, remarried a year later. He brought home a woman named Madame Zack, sharp tongue, smooth face, and quick to smile. She came with her daughter Daisy, who was pretty, polite, and painfully aware that she lived in Amaka's shadow. At first, Zack acted sweetly. She plaited Amaka's hair and called her my dear. However, behind her eyes, something was watching. She saw how the villagers adored Amaka, how even the palace guard lowered their head when she passed. Yet, no matter how many beads and bangles Daisy wore, she could never draw the same admiration. Soon, the kindness faded, the soft touch turned cold, and things began to go missing. Amaka's scarf, her bed slippers, even a necklace from her late mom. Each time Amaka asked Zack about the missing item, she shrugged and replied, maybe if you kept your head out of the cloud, you wouldn't lose things. The day came when the prince's messenger rode through the village square, igniting a dark jealousy in Zack. Soon after, an announcement changed everything. A royal gong echoed through the village, and a rider in white, bearing the prince's shell, read aloud, by the degree of His Highness Prince Obinna of Omoro, a grand celebration shall be held to celebrate the next queen of the land. Every maiden of age is invited. The air crowded with excitement. Drums beat from the compound walls, and girls screamed with joy. Mother rushed to pull out hidden wrappers, old jewelry, and forgotten perfumes. The tailor's hall transformed into a ferry of activities, and the bead makers did not sleep for 2 days. Even Adaeze, Madame Zack's daughter, smiled as if someone had just handed her the throne. But it was Amaka, the quiet and soft-spoken girl, who stepped into the sunlight that evening and allowed herself to dream for the first time. She closed her eyes and imagined it. The palace lantern flared in the wind like a fire flame. The sweet scent of jasmine and roasted plantain filling the air. The sound of flutes playing while she danced, not as a servant, not as a shadow, but as a girl who deserved to be seen. She did not share her thoughts with anyone, but that night, under her mat, she quietly unfolded a strip of gold cloth she had been saving for years. Across the compound, Zack noticed her. Just like that, the seed of a new plan began to grow. However, Madame Zack had been watching. She noticed how Amaka's eyes light up when she looked at the sky, the soft hum in her voice, and she quickly stitched her clothes. That quiet joy, that silent dream made her sick. We will see how long that glow lasts, she thought. The day before the festival, Zack called Amaka into the yard. She handed her a long scroll, which unfurled across the floor like a python. Wash every wrapper in this compound twice. Clean the goat's pen until it sparkles like rose water. Fetch water from the far stream. The near one is too muddy. Cook for the entire household, and not a single grain of rye must burn. If I find even one speck of dust, you will start again. Amaka's heart sank, but she nodded and began her task. The sun rose, boiled and dipped into the dust. Her finger bled from scrubbing, and her arm burned from lifting. But she did not stop. Just as the sky turned orange, she placed the lap pot of stew on fire. She exclaimed, her legs wobbled. but her heart, a tiny flake of pride remained. She had done it. She had earned her chance. But across the compound, in the shadow by the doorway, Madame Zack stood with her arm folded, eyes narrowed. She still believes she's going, she muttered. Then tonight, I will teach her where she belongs. She walked to her room, opened a curved wooden box, and pulled out a pair of old iron scissors that were too sharp. The scream that tore through the compound was like thunder. It wasn't just loud, it was a can that made coats run, made neighbors freeze, mid-conservation, and Belle leaped into the sky in a frank flux. Inside the room, Amaka stood in front of the mirror, frozen. Her hands trembled as they reached for her head. The girl who once wore her hair like a waterfall of pride now stared at the mess. It wasn't shaved or styled. It was hacked, butchered in all directions. There was dust here, bar patch there, and some parts too hair beads that clung desperately the memory of beauty. Amaka did not scream again. She just blinked slowly, as if hoping the reflection would blink back something different. Then the door cracked open. Madame Zack leaned against the flame, arm folded, lips twisted in satisfaction. "What is it, Amaka?" she said with mock sweetness. "You do not like your new look." She stepped closer. "You said you wanted to go to the palace, right? Go on then. Let's see if the prince wants a girl who looks like a plucked chicken." Amaka did not reply. She did not fight or scream. Instead, she reached slowly for her scarf, hanging by her bed, the one her late mother had left behind. She wrapped it around her hair, tying it with care, as if every knot was a prayer. Without glancing at Madame Zack, she opened the door, stepping into the saddle with bare feet. She walked with her shoulders straight and her head high towards the edge of the village. There was only one place left in the world that felt safe. Beyond the yam field, past the whispering palm trees, stood a small clear mud hut, wrapped in silence and smoke. It belonged to Mama Ebere, a woman old that no one remembered when she arrived. Some say she spoke to trees, others claimed she once held a boy with no heartbeat. But everyone agreed on one thing: her words could mend what the world had broken. Amaka reached the door and fell to her knees. Her chest heavy, but her eyes held no more tears, only ashes. She cried, "My hair, my pride, my chance." Mama Ebere opened the door without a word. She had already been waiting. Her eyes scanned the girl, not her head, not her scarf, but her soul. She reached out her finger, wrinkles like a bark of an old Iroko tree, and put Amaka inside. They sat together in stillness. The fire cracked, and the wind sank through the thatched roof. Then Mama Ebere spoke. "When the lioness walked into the forest, the trees don't ask about her name, their path, because they feel her power." She united the scarf, running her finger gently over Amaka's head and smiling. "They try to humble you with shame," she said, "but shame is afraid of women who read from a small calabash." She brought out palm oil, cowries, and thread. Together in silence, they braided what was left, tight, different rows that whispered strength with every curve. She wove in beads, not of gold, but cut from bone and wound. Ancient things that have passed through the hands of women who had survived wars. When they finished, Mama Ebere handed Amaka a mirror. Amaka looked into it, not to find beauty, but to see if anything was remained of her. But what she saw wasn't victim. It was a fire, low and quiet, but ready to burn through anything that stood its path. The palace buzzed with laugh that night. The air shimmered with perfumed candlelight and the hum of royalty. Drummers played rhythm that made marble floor vibrant. while laughter flooded like smoke. The grand hall sparkled with gold, and the guests were in corn stitch with a foreign silk, their hair peeled high, sparkling with momentum and dust in gold, crowned with flowers from a garden that no commoner could afford. Then the music shifted, not because it stopped, but because the room sensed a change. Amaka stepped through the palace gate, wearing no jewelry, no makeup, no shoes, just a flowing ash-colored dress sewn by her own hands, and a crown of short beaded cornrow that caught the lights like white thunder. Her feet cleansed the floor with each step, not begging for acceptance, but declaring, "I do not need your permission." Hair turned and whispered filled the air, sharp as blades. Who let her in? She looks like a boy. She must be lost. Laughter followed, but Amaka did not blink. She walked as if marble had been laid for her alone, like she had walked through the fire to get there and emerged unshattered. At the top of the grand staircase, Prince Obinna paused. His eyes had gazed over at 50 girls strolling before him, dressed in lace and empty poultry. Now, his gaze was fixed on the barefoot girl in grey. He straightened. There was no gold in her hair, no gemstone around her neck, but she moved like someone who had foreshadowed in silence, walking away while holding onto her light. She did not smile, she did not bow, she just stood there, unshaken, and in that stillness, everything changed. The room shifted around her. From across the hall, a voice threatened with venomous silence through the music. A noble girl in bright silk, her eyes narrowed with envy, sneered loud enough for everyone to hear. Maybe she cut her hair because she wanted attention. Poor thing, so desperate to be seen. Laughter followed, not the light kind, but the cruel kind that stings like pepper in a wound. Amaka stood still, not stiff. Her hands were not French, and her eyes did not drop. She simply breathed. Then a voice cut through the noise like a thunder. "I disagree." Silence, utter silence. Haze turned like wind blow grass. Even the drummer stopped mid-beat. At the top of the staircase stood Prince Obinna, his eye locked onto the girl with a scarf and fire in her bones. He stepped forward, each footfall echoing like a verdict. "She's the most beautiful woman in this room," he said, not because of her dress, not because of her hair, but because she walked in anyway. The room froze. No one dared to laugh now. Amaka's chest rose and fell slowly. She did not smile, nor did she blink away tears. She simply met his eyes, not as a subject, but as an equal. The music heard its breath, and the prince stepped forward, his palm open towards her, steady and sure. "May I have this dance?" Amaka did not answer right away. She glanced sideways to the far end of the grand hall, where half hidden behind curtain of lace, a royalty stood Madame Zack, froze, eyed wide, her mouth gasped, a ghost witnessing the run of her own shame. Their eyes met, no words passed, and none were needed. Then Amaka turned back to the prince, and for the first time in that night, she smiled. "Yes," she said softly, "let's dance." She placed her hand in his as they stepped onto the floor barefoot. She, a girl, and he, a royal son. The atmosphere of the palace shifted. It wasn't the music or the light. It was the air itself that filled with whisper, though not the same as before. She was breathtaking, walking with grace of a queen. The girl with the short hair, but Amaka did not hear them. She danced not like someone trying to prove herself, but like someone who had already won. Weeks passed, and the kingdom was abused with rumors. The drummers rolled, and the royal decree echoed from the palace gate. By the command of His Highness Prince Obinna of Umoro, The future queen shall be called Amaka of Umuji. The city erupted. Drummers played with the force of thunder, and women oscillated until their voice cracked. Market stalls closed in celebration. The girl who wore no shoe, the one they had once laughed at, was now a queen. Madam Sack did not scream or beg. She simply vanished, fading away like smoke after fire had consumed everything. No one asked where she went, and no one cared. Bitterness had no throne here, only silence. But Amaka did not just become a queen of the palace. She became a symbol for every girl who had ever been mocked for being too quiet, too plain, or too strange. She represented every woman who had been torn down for being different and stood up anyway. She was not just royalty, she was a reminder that no one can steal your crown when it's forged from fire, not gold. Thanks for watching.